Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Conversing with CJ, and I'm joined by a guest. He's a man whose story redefines precision, resilience, and the unseen cost of military service. He's a former British Army Blues and Royals Cavalry and Sniper with a record that stood as the longest confirmed sniper kill in history in Afghanistan of 2.5 kilometers, more or less 2.5 kilometer distance, or just over a mile and a half. But he's far more than just a marksman. With over 2 decades in the British Army, including tours in Bosnia, Kosovo, Iraq, and Afghanistan. He's the author of the best selling memoir, The Longest Kill, where he opens up not only about his military career, but also about the psychological toll it took and his battle with PTSD. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Harrison. First of all, Craig, thank you for joining me. And how's your day been?
No, no worries at all. It's a pleasure to be on the show. Yeah, my day's been good. So a bit tired, as I said. I've been up since 3:30. So yeah, a
Yeah.
bit different than what you threw me on your email because I remember you reached out to me and you said Wednesday or Tuesday and it's Monday because you're a day in front of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, gives you time to think about that, but all good.
Yeah, no problem at all. So obviously every interview that I'll be doing on this podcast, we all start with the childhood and upbringing. So what was your childhood like, Craig?
My childhood was good, you know. My mum was very strict, very Victorian, as my upbringing, and I was quite of a lonely child, even though I had a brother. So I was heavily involved in horses at a young age. Very, very honoured to have that sort of lifestyle. My brother was interested in all that stuff, so and that's why I say I was quite lonely because I was the one getting up early in the morning. I was the one riding and eventing and doing the shows and all that. So as a child, I was quite sheltered. Um, and I suppose that's where my army career went the way it did. But yeah, my yeah, I had my grandfather, who's my father figure. You know, he passed away in '94 while I was serving. But yeah, my childhood was good. I can't grumble about my childhood, just how strict it was, but it made me a better person in a way. So
It sort of shaped the person you would end up becoming, sort of thing.
yeah,
Without that, you would sort of, yeah, I totally get what you mean. You'd almost, um, in hindsight, thank the upbringing because, yeah, you wouldn't be the person with the morals and the values that you are today without it, sort of thing.
yeah, I'm very, do you know, when they say, "Oh, just like your mum, you're just like your dad," I was like my grandfather, and he was a very wise and a very kind man. And I think I skipped a generation. And my brother followed after my father, and I followed after my grandfather, And I suppose I got traits from my mum now and again, but more my grandfather way, the way I come across. I'm very old school. Yeah, and very old school with relationship, marriage, and I like to provide for my family and stuff like that. So, I like to thank my grandfather for that.
Yeah, well, dabbling a little bit about your grandfather that you just mentioned, if anyone knows anything about Craig, whether they've seen you on Lad Bible or other podcasts, finding that out about your grandfather just now, it absolutely rings true and comes through in especially the Lad Bible special that you did. You are definitely, you're a tough man, but you're also very soft at the same time, in the right ways, is what I'm meaning.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
which is testament to your grandfather and obviously yourself. Now, during your upbringing, when did you first find out about the military? And what sort of point were you like, right, I would like to join the military?
I think where I was born in Cheltenham, it's small country, and there wasn't many job prospects there to expand on. And I was thick as fuck at school. And my granddad said to me, "You got a gift. You can make people laugh." And I've always been a bit joker, even when shit hits the fan. When I was in heavy contacts,
It's that
you know,
military humor.
back, it was just that black humor that got us through what we got through. And I don't know where I got my humour from, my jokiness, but I just fucked around at school all the time. I never took it seriously, you know. Um, but getting old now, I'm 50 now, and I'm more keener to learn now than I did when I was a child, you
I
know.
think because it's
Uh,
not being forced upon you now, it's you're wanting to learn and you're learning the things you want to learn about.
I'm interested in, you know, like history, like snipering and stuff like that. And um, suppose my mum sort of groomed me when I was about 10 years old to join the military. All my family were military. My mum, my dad, my granddad, they're all in the RAF. So they're all
Okay.
like,
So
so
they were RAF, but you went the different route and went to army.
yeah, because of the horses route, I wanted to be a farrier.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
and there was no job prospects in where I was living to become a farrier.
To anyone, sorry to
So
interrupt, to anyone that doesn't know what a farrier is, because unfortunately it is a dying trade these days. A farrier is someone that makes horseshoes and fits them onto horses, etc. Please continue, Craig.
yeah, it's a fantastic trade to get, you know. And there was no farriers in my local area taking on apprenticeships. So in a way that I just thought, fuck it, I'll join the army, you know. And my mum sort of made me do my own washing, my ironing, and sort
So
of
you were pretty
prepped me.
self-sufficient by that point as well.
Yeah, massively, you know, and especially my responsibilities is looking after horses as well. So I had that sort of, and I was a clean canvas. So I didn't really experience civilian street. um, I didn't join the army at a later age. I joined straight from school when I was 16 years old,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know.
Like the
So I
minimum
was,
age requirement sort of thing.
yeah, and I was a clean canvas when I joined the army. So I didn't have any bad habits of what to expect in civilian street. So, yeah, and I joined the army straight from school. So I had 10 years of prep. And my fitness was on par because I was doing triathlons like running, shooting, swimming, riding, and I was competing a lot. So my fitness was already there. So I didn't really stumble on that. Maybe my dyslexia when I joined, but at the time, it really wasn't recognised in the military, you know, until I went further up the ranks and you have to do education, maths, and English. You know, then I stumbled a bit, but you know, going to night school at night to correct myself, and that's what I done.
Yeah. So even bits that you um even the bits that you were lacking in, you went out of your way to, make up for that because again, it's not like it was school. It was something you were wanting to do, something you were wanting to learn. And I think that's going to be a very prominent theme across this episode and this recording because a lot of things definitely you've had to overcome and the ways that you've overcome them are incredible. So my next sort of flowing into that is you go through basic training and you're a bit flustered at the time where they're asking, where do you want to go, son? And you go, Blues and Royals. Tell us about that.
Well, basically, I just wanted to join the Household Cavalry. I didn't know much about it, you know. I know the recruiting officers in the recruiting centre just said, look, this is where you're going to go. But I was set minded that I wanted to join the Household Cavalry. And I remember there being lifeguards and Blues and Royals. Now, all I know is the seniority with the lifeguards, and then the Blues and Royals with a mixture of two regiments from Waterloo, you know. Pardon me. And I remember being outside the clothing store and an officer walking past us and said, "What do you want to be? Blue and Royal lifeguard?" And I went, "Blue and Royal." It sounded good, you know, Blue and Royal instead of lifeguard. Yeah, and yeah, and then then that's me. I got badged as a Blue and Royal, and that's how we got. And he went down the line, and there were guards there, but he was specifically asking the Household Cavalry lads, lifeguard or Blue and Royal, lifeguard or Blue and Royal, you know, because I think after a while, the lifeguards and the Blue Royals amalgamated because we were doing the same job. The cap badge stayed the same as lifeguards and the Blues and Royals, but we ended up just amalgamating and becoming the Household Cavalry. So
Yeah, fair. And after obviously that point, yeah, you had a bit of time after that where it was a bit boring for you. for lack of a better term. Um, Tell us about that boring time and how you stumbled across prize fighting.
Um, oh, it's a long story. I
I've got a
think
long time, no rush.
yeah, so basically I passed out of the guards depot, and it was the guards depot at the time, and anyone who know that the guards that do Buckingham Palace and stuff like that and Troop and McCullough, they're very rigid and they're very proud of what they do. And the household cavalry is part of the household division. Now, the household division is the guards. So we were donkey wallopers, we were horse shaggers, and we just got the piss taken out of us because we were on horses. But I overcome that and I joined the regiment and I wanted to become in the forge. So I went into the forge and my dyslexia took control, as in when they were setting us homework to do, I was doing more illustration work, and then it wasn't good enough for them. My practical skills were on par, but learning the veterinary side of stuff wasn't on par. So I didn't have a plan B. My plan A was join the House of Cavalry, become a farrier, stay in the army as long as possible, get a trade, leave, earn the money, retire happy, and that was my plan A. And
Which
plan
is a
B,
solid plan.
yeah, and it wasn't solid enough because I was dyslexic, and I I went fuck it, I'll just go AWOL, and I joined the French Foreign Legion,
It
and that's
From the way you've written about it in the book, when you went AWOL to join the Foreign Legion, which
yeah,
you were planning to join it with your best mate who didn't make the military, your best mate who
no,
you grew up with. Um,
Tom,
yeah, it seemed like it was a nightmare experience in the Foreign Legion, for lack of a better term. So yeah, please delve into that.
I didn't spend long there,
No,
on the first
but
on
enough
first
time.
but enough time to realise, and I was honest, yeah. And the French Foreign Legion years and years ago used to take murderers and
Criminals, yeah.
yeah, criminals that were on the run. They just wanted a new identity, and as long as they served France for 5 years and give their skin, as they
They get
say.
that citizenship, don't they?
Yes, yeah, they do. And so they got a new identity and stuff rosy. And I went there on a my mate never tipped up, so I was still committed because I was AWOL from the British Army. I went to the nearest police station in France. I went in there and I said I want to join the Foreign Legion. They fucked me off. They didn't believe me, so I went away. Came back the next day. I slept rough that night. Went back the next day and they said, "Look, I want to join the French Foreign Legion." They realised that I was legit, that I wanted to do it. But what happens is the Legion then will come around and pick you up, but they won't pick one person up. They'll wait till there's enough. It's a waste of
Because it'd be
time
a waste of
otherwise.
their resources. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to wait there for 2 weeks in this police station, and I couldn't have free board there. So I was sweeping the roads and I was de-weeding in an old folks home in France, waiting for the Foreign Legion to come to pick us up. And it ended up, I'm not sure off the top of my head, 5 or 6 of us. And they came round, picked us up, and took us to a recruiting station. And they took all our civilian clothes off us. Uh, and gave us a yellow tracksuit. And the recruiting centre was like a coliseum, so it had a sand pit in the middle of it, and that was where we did our fitness and stuff like that. And I loved it. I loved it because it was fitness, and I was into my fitness. Dyslexia, yeah, probably a bit of a barrier with the French, but there were English people there, English speaking people there to make us understand because we were too early in the stage of the recruiting to start learning French, but you sort of got the gist of it after a while. And I remember my bed was next to the toilet and it was a big dorm. And I got warned not to go in the toilets that night and because you'd get done over in the toilets. So I was pissing in my water bottle and washing that out in the mornings in the toilet and filling it full of water. But I just needed to remember to wash it out and turn on play with a piss drinking water bottle. But and I remember this para. He was an ex-power. He was a legionnaire, and he'd been in for some years. And he took me and this lad who was English. He was American. To one side, and he dropped his trousers, and he had like cigarette burns all over his legs and on his arse cheeks. And he said, "Just be careful, because when you get paid in the Legion, they take it back off you, and you're not allowed leave within 5 years, or I think it's 2 or 5 years, and they give you the money, and you're not allowed back to your original country that you come from." Do you remember the cigarettes? You get the cigar tubes, the cigars coming. The reason why he got the cigarette burns is because he got pinned down, and he used to put the money in this tube and shovel up his arse to stop him getting mugged. And they pinned him down and put cigarette burns on his arse cheeks to pull this tube out to nick his money. That didn't really, put a light on the situation that I wanted to become a legionnaire.
Yeah,
But
that's a bit of a horror story. That's the anti story to
yeah,
join the Foreign Legion.
oh, fucking nightmare, and you got to be at this point. They take your passport off you, they take everything off you. You just got a yellow tracksuit, you got a water bottle, they feed you
You're
shitty
basically just a
food.
number at this point for them.
Yeah, basically. So after a couple of weeks, I did the medical, did the fitness, some exams, and I got interviewed by Interpol to make sure I'm not a wanted man. And I was honest with them, and I said, look, I'm AWOL from the British Army. Da, 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 da. They left me stewing for a couple of days, and then they called me back in and said, we can't accept you. So they fucked me back off. They gave me all my clothes back, and yeah, they
What was the journey like back to England then?
um yeah, I just thought, what am I gonna do now? I still didn't have a plan B. I didn't have a plan C. That was my plan B. I'm going for the fucking alphabet at this point, So I got back to the regiment, handed myself in, and I did 14 days in military jail. Once I'd come out, I'm lucky at the end of the day because I got soldier on. I could have got kicked out. And I thought, and I got approached by somebody in the regiment, and he said, "Do you want to earn some extra money?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, sure, money's money." And I started prize fighting. I went to a place in London, which is now blocks of flats now. And I remember it was like a normal gym inside, but I had the stairs at the back. You went down the stairs, and it was like a boxing ring in the middle of it, and it had like the cloister stairs like people sit on, and it had the stairs one side and the stairs the other side, and your opponent will come down the other stairs, you'll go down the other stairs, and there was a hole in the wall with the shutters, and a hand will come out and give you a ticket where you put the bet on, and then they take the money off you, and that's how it was run, And I would go in there. It used to be a Wednesday night and a Friday night, and you could have up to 3 fights a night, and you could earn up to £300 a fight.
But from
But
what I'm led to
I
believe in your book, you don't win all three. Otherwise,
no,
yeah,
I
otherwise you're going
learned
to
that.
get robbed or mugged, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
I didn't learn that the hard way by getting done over, but I saw people get done over. And the guy who introduced me to it sort of gave me the heads up. And he said, look, don't make it obvious that you're taking a dive. And don't get me wrong, some days I got the shit battered out of me,
Yeah, while
because
giving it your best.
yeah, I'm not Superman, but I still got the money, and it was not as much money,
Yeah,
but
for a
it was
loss
good money.
you would have got less.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was easy money to make. But the caveat on that I was turning up on guard duty the next day with
but you're
split
supposed to
lips,
be
black
in your
eyes.
spiffiest look.
Yeah. And I looked fucked, big, big. cuts on my ears, on my eyes, and things like that, you know. And my regiment is split into two. So you've got the ceremonial side, which is the horses, and then you've got the other side, which is the armored reconnaissance side, and we call it the green side. And that's based in Windsor. So that was probably about 30 miles away from London. And I think the heads of we call the heads of sheds that the people in charge said we need to get this man out of London. You know, he's not doing too well in London. Well, I thought I was all right. I
He's
was
making a
getting fucked.
killing. Let's put it this way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So and they sent me to Windsor, and do you know what? I didn't look back. I did not look back. You know, I flourished because I loved being outside. I loved the reconnaissance side, and I loved the ethos of the regiment and how it presented itself. So now this was my plan C, you know.
That's wonderful. Now, after that, but before Bosnia, at what point did you become or interested in sniping? Was it during Bosnia, or like were you deployed to Bosnia and Kosovo in particular as a sniper, but just didn't get the chance to, use your sniper sort of expertise, or was it after those deployments you came back and then you retrained as a sniper?
Yeah, it was after them. So basically, I went to Bosnia when the genocide was happening, and then
Just
when
so no, you're just saying that so casually. Yeah, just going over there
oh
while genocide. Let's take a second, just for a second, to holy fuck. Pardon my language to anyone that's listening. You're about to go into a conflict, for lack of a better term, at a very young age, and be witnessing horrendous war crimes and atrocities, especially genocide. Right. Let's duck into that. You are deployed to Bosnia. Tell us about that.
so it was against invading the country, and it was about it just fast not this is a wrong thing to say, but what another human being can do to another human being,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
eye opening.
And they used to have crosses on their house to symbolize their for the invasion or against it. And used to get people nailed to the doors and stuff like that. And it was, uh, yeah. And I think now
Like
going back to
literally,
my,
like Jesus sort of nailed to the door.
yeah, you see mass graves and stuff. But going back to my childhood, my mum making me a tough cookie made me better to cope with the stuff that I saw, and I coped with it better because my mum didn't wrap me up in cotton wool. She was very strict and very hard on me. It made me a better person to cope with the stuff that I did see. But I ended up doing 3 tours of Bosnia, and some of it, majority of it was just peacekeeping, doing patrols, and we couldn't. And the hard bit is we had to let them get on with it. We were there to if it got way out of control, and we're
Literally a
always
peacekeeping force sort of thing.
yeah, basically, and hearts and minds and stuff like that. And I think, well, I don't think I know Kosovo was the worst tour that I've ever done for genocide. To think what, as I said before, what a person can do to another person, as in mass graves, as in the rape, the pillaging, the everything that a person can do. And
There's some very eye-opening chapters in your book, especially about
yeah,
the. I'm not going to go into it because anyone that wants to know about it can buy your book or listen to the audiobook. But there's a very, very deep chapter about the rape in particular,
yeah,
that you witnessed in Kosovo, and I won't get you to talk about that. So anyone that wants to know about that can get your book or the audiobook. But yeah, Kosovo, please continue.
yeah. We were there for a bit longer. So basically, we were there as an invasion, well, as a peacekeeping force for 3 months, as a fighting force for 3 months. to push the Serbians out back over to Serbia. And we went through Pristina, which is the main city there, and we pushed the Serbians back over to the border, which they carried on shooting at us, but we couldn't shoot back because there was, it was
And they
all
would have known
political.
it too.
Yeah, yeah, oh, massively, massively. And we we then stayed longer because they didn't have the manpower to change us over for a peacekeeping force. So the guy down the road was shooting at us a couple of days ago, and now we're giving them a football and some crayons to say, "Hey, what can we do to help you to rebuild you and make your house?" And it just didn't make sense to us, you know. It's very, very complicated scenario Kosovo was, and to stay there and dig mass graves up was wow. Yeah,
Yeah, instead of focusing on the mass graves, there is one
yeah,
in particular, one moment that I remember because I listened to the audiobook version, and the bit that really got me about those conflicts, Bosnia and Kosovo in particular, was you having to strip down your shorts and shirt and go into the water and bring out dead bodies. Um,
yeah.
if you don't mind me asking, could you tell us about that? Because you were saying that it was almost as if they've been stewing so long because their skin just fell off. That's horrific
Yeah,
sort of shit to think
yeah.
about. Sorry, please continue about that.
So to start off with, we found this fisherman, and that's how we found everybody because we found a fisherman, and every day we would drive past, and he'd be there every morning, and we'd drive past in the evening, and he'd be there. So one day we thought we'll just go and speak to him, and he was dead, and he had been shot, and he had loads of cigarette um, boxes on him, and each cigarette box had money in, and he had about a good 10 cigarette boxes on him, and all had a lot of money in. So we had to call the military police in to, you know, to evidence as these money and all that. And then we saw stuff on the water like it was like fat on the water, and we could see hair, and it figured out that they're all women, that they had been discarded and weighed down in the water, and we didn't have a boat, so we had to swim out and pull these women back to shore to give them the correct and respectful burial that
Oh,
they needed,
absolutely. Going into
because
that
they've been.
water, how did you know? I'm sorry, not how did you know? How did you feel? Not necessarily knowing that you were going to be pulling out a body, but knowing that you were in water that was, for lack of a better term, infested with dead bodies. Was it just
Spooky.
to crack on with the job? Oh, it was spooky. Okay, continue.
Yeah, yeah. Because you just think one's alive, going to grab you, but you'd grab them by the hand, and the skin would come off, or you'd grab them by the hair, and their scalp would come off because they've been in the water for so long. Um, but we've done our job,
Yes.
and I think what I got my PTSD from Kosovo,
I don't,
and
I'm not surprised. I shouldn't be saying that, but I'm not surprised by the sounds of that, Craig.
I think it just got worse from Iraq to Afghan, and trying to hide it after Afghan. It was like shaking a pop bottle. It's just the cork just blew off. But it stems back from there because I remember coming back off tour from Kosovo, and there was we all the squadron all queued outside this office, and we went in, and there was a lady sat at a desk, and you sit down, and she goes, "How you feeling?" "Yeah, I feel all right." "Okay, off you go." And that was it. It wasn't fucking hell, I feel shit about it. And I did a talk not long ago, and I talked about Kosovo, and on my Instagram I had loads of um, is it Kosovans? Yeah, just reach out to me saying thank you for talking about it because it doesn't get talked about. No one knows much about Kosovo, and it's always over. It's over a
It's over,
limelight
yeah,
with
because
Iraq.
Iraq and Afghanistan and all
Yeah,
that, yeah. But yeah,
not
Kosovo was just as like fucked. Excuse the words, but it was just as fucked, if not more than, based on some of the war crimes that you witnessed. And yeah, wow.
massively, massively fucked. Oh, it's a weird. There's stuff that, yeah, I could go into, but I don't want to start sharpening an axe to other countries and stuff like that. But fucking horrendous, horrendous.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure we'll talk off there about it very briefly.
Yeah.
But so after Kosovo, you come back after witnessing absolute atrocities and the start of PTSD. And you go to the room, you're all right, yep, I'm all good, off you go. And at what point after that, do you start to retrain as a sniper? Because I know at some point you were like, I want to be a sniper, but there was no room for it in the cavalry.
Not the fact there's no room, there was no remit for it. You know, my regiment, the Household Cavalry, is so old and it's too scared to move on with the times, which is sad. It's so fucking archaic and it needs to move on, you know. After Kosovo, I left the army
Yeah, you did.
be-
It was for about 3 months,
because,
wasn't it?
yeah, because I just couldn't. I didn't want to say that I had PTSD. I didn't want to say that I was struggling. I just left because I couldn't. I just didn't understand what was happening with me. You know, they say you don't miss the circus, you miss the clowns. There's a
The
saying,
camaraderie, yeah.
yeah, and I missed it. I couldn't see eye to eye with civilians. Um, I couldn't see eye to eye with them on their logic of thinking. Now, when they say, "Oh, let's move that there, let's put that there," we got no room to move, but it looks fucking good. You're like, ah, what the fuck? It doesn't make any sense. So I thought I knew I was going to get back in. I just needed a breather because the regiment was moving so fast, you know, bouncing tours and everything like that. So I got back in and literally I was going through 2-3 SAS, which is like the territorial army, um, uh, and I was going through selection up in Newcastle, and but it was going so slow for me, and I thought, "Fuck this!" I was running out of money. You know, I can't rely on the TA because it's going slow. So I said, "Fuck it, I'll rejoin." And don't get me wrong, I was a bad lad when I was in Knightsbridge, you know, in London. And I thought I wouldn't get back in because of my previous, you know, being AWOL and stuff like that. But luckily, I spoke to a gentleman who knew me very, very well in charge of recruitment from the regiment. And he said, yeah, we'll have you back. And within within a week, I was back in the regiment. And within 2 weeks, because my skills and drills were on par still because I was going through selection, map reading, weapon handling, stuff like that. I went straight to Iraq,
Yeah, wow.
and
So you literally
I
you
joined.
wouldn't have needed to do basic training because you were within that 12-month period of rejoining. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but you went straight to Iraq, like no, hi
yeah,
guys, how's it going? Just straight deployment sort of thing.
yeah. The A squadron were going out, and I joined A squadron, and yeah, we went out. Um,
Wow. And what was that like? Going literally from 3 months break because it was moving so fast to right, you're going to Iraq sort of thing.
do you know what?
Mm.
Majority of the lads that I met from the squadron who knew me, were mates and everything,
Mm.
thought I got posted somewhere. They didn't know I left.
Wow.
Yeah, they goes, "Oh, how was your posting?" I said, "I got out," you
Yeah.
know, and they were like, "What the fuck? We thought you got posted out," you know.
Wow.
And Iraq was, yeah, Iraq was
Well, you did
different. Fucking
technically get
hot.
posted. You got posted to
Yeah,
Iraq.
yeah, it was fucking hot. Um, and when to we went to Kuwait first, and then we were the invasion force into Iraq.
Yeah, not a
And
peacekeeping force this time, an invasion
no,
force for real. Yeah.
we were full on fighting, you know, and there were a lot of bodies, a lot of casualties. The Americans went over as well. They went on to Baghdad. We went on to Basra, and then we had to go through another city called Alamara. And from Alamara, we had a base location once we overtook that city. And then we pushed on to Basra, which we overtook the airport and then made it our base location from there. Um, and I remember being in Alamara in a big football stadium. And I remember I thought, fuck it, I'm going to go for a walk. So I was single as well. And everyone was ringing their missuses up and everything like that. And I wasn't missing home because my mum wasn't very um, maternal, you know, there. So I felt comfortable and I thought, fuck it, I'll go for a walk. So I walked up to the stairs as high as the stadium can go. And I started walking around the stadium and I saw snipers. And that's the first time that I saw the snipers. And they were so fucking professional, you know. And I remember speaking to this one. He didn't take his eye off the scope. He's the way he
But
was
had a
dressed, the way
conversation with you just while maintaining the discipline.
massive. And and then I saw them cutting around the stadium and how they got treated, and I thought, this is what I want to be. And every time you finish a tour, you get told what courses you're doing for progression up the chain of command. And basically, I'd done all my basic stuff, so I had a choice of what I wanted to do, and I said I want to be a sniper, and they fucked me off. They said, "What in the Household Cavalry?" No, and but I kept badgering, I kept badgering, I kept badgering, and eventually they said to me, "Okay." I had a friend who was a sergeant major, and I approached him and I said, "I want to become a sniper," and he said, "Yeah, okay." He said, "I'll throw in a few favors," and I became, I went down to the sniper school. The funny
With
thing
no
is,
pre-course at all, which
nothing.
everyone there at the time, pre-courses for days.
Oh,
Please continue.
it was the paras, it was the guards. You know, they've been in their sniper platoons for 6 months, up to a year, so they know all the skills and drills. I just tipped up with my kit bag. I didn't have a weapon. I didn't have a ghillie suit. I didn't have an obs board, binos, binocular sight. I didn't have a night vision. I didn't have anything, you know. And luckily, a Coldstream Guard.
Which anyone that's
Uh,
listening, all of this gear had to be paid for out of your own pocket. It wasn't given to you on the course, sort of thing.
no, no. Um, they all, well, your listeners will know that anything to do with the army, their kit's shit. So you end up buying your own kit anyway and to make your life easier in the field. And I was lucky enough, the Coldstream Guard said, "Look, I've got a spare weapon system, I've got a spare spot and scope," and he had loads of spare gear, and he gave me all his stuff, and I flourished, and I'm 6'4". I'm a tall bloke, but I can fit in some right small holes if I needed to, And 30 started my course and four passed. Um, High failure rate, you know.
And those
Anyone
are
can
those are
shoot.
both with pre-courses as well as we just mentioned.
Yeah,
And you were
yeah,
one of those four that passed, and so therefore only three with a pre-course passed.
yeah, yeah. And every weekend we had off, I was training. Every weekend, I'd go home, and by this time I had met Tanya off my first tour, and I was still with her when I was doing the sniper phase, and even sacrificing seeing her to spend time in the tailor shop sewing my ghillie suit, putting pads on the to make my life better in the field, to make myself more visible in the field, and then I would sit in the tailor shop and I'd read, I would advise, I would do tests, because I just wanted to be the best, and this is what I wanted to be. And I didn't want to let the regiment down. I was very I was very marriage, Tanya girlfriend second, army first. I was very that. And now I'm out, I always put her first and put her needs first. But at the time, it was always the army. And she accepted that and she took that on board, because she married into the army. It'd be different if I was a civilian married and joining the army. It'd have been tough. So, yeah. And then I'm a fucking sniper in the regiment. The first one ever in the history of the Household Cavalry. I was a sniper. So yeah, and
That's
then then
that's a
the
pardon my language, that's a fucking achievement to be able to say
oh,
that, honestly.
oh, and my regiment stems back from the 1800s to Waterloo, from everything, and now I'm a sniper, and not sure because of what I achieved, but they started allowing snipers into the Household Cavalry because if anyone knows about reconnaissance, about being sneaky, having a sniper, yeah, in your bag is 100%. You command that battlefield at the end of the day, and and I I, I went to Iraq, and then I started going to Afghan as a sniper, and I commanded the field, and I was so proud
Well,
to do the job that I was
yeah,
doing.
and as you were saying just before, the recon and whatnot, a lot of people may not realize that aren't military. Um, Only like a good 5% of being a sniper is taking the shot. The other
Yeah.
95% is recon. It's, 4 or 5 days out on the field, just as you mentioned in the book and in other podcast episodes, just watching, your targets, the compound, the way they live, for lack of a better term.
It's gathering lifetime information of the battlefield. That's your primary role. Lifetime of the battlefield. So get as much information as possible, and your secondary role is to take that shot.
Absolutely. And that's only if you're cleared to take the shot as well, given the green light, which at the same time, those 4 or 5 days could be, unfortunately, for nout. It could be, no, you've got red light, can't take it. And so my next question for you is going into Afghanistan and Iraq, etc., as a sniper, doing those, taking in the lifetime stuff of the compound, what toll does that take on your body and mind being out there for those, could be a day, could be 4 or 5 days, whether you do end up taking that shot or not?
There's no such thing as lone wolf as a sniper. So you always work as a pair. There's always 16 of you, and you break down into your pairs and you go and do your job. I like being on my own. I was with my number two, um, but we got on so well, and I liked having that responsibility and that treated like an adult sort of feeling to go, right, this is your mission, you got to insert, and you have to find your way in there. You can't predict on a map because you can't see the ground and the undulating of the ground and buildings. So you have to pick where you go, and that's your responsibility. And to get treated like an adult, as they say, because in the army you do get treated like a kid sometimes, you know. But just to go in, and it is a toll on your body. Sometimes you're still for 7 days. You do not move for 7 days. You cramp up, you know. You're eating rations that are designed to put calories on you, but also designed to constipate you. So when you finish that mission, you stink. You've either pissed yourself or you're constipated, you feel uncomfortable, but you're hot, you're sweaty, you're in a really cramped conditions with your buddy. but you get the fucking job done, you know? And 90% of the time I've been a sniper, I've taken the shot, you know. The 10% other times is I've just inserted and not taken. Majority of the time, you gather the information and then you get the green light. So,
And speaking of the green light, your first kill as a sniper. Talk us through that entire experience, please.
so we had a thing called a MOG, which is a mobile operational group, and that was in Iraq, and that was going around the desert. So basically, if there was any drama in Alamara or any of these little villages around Alamara, we could respond quickly to that location. It's easier to have a mob, but we got missiled all the time. So every time we were stationary, we got hit by incoming missiles. There was IEDs everywhere, so we couldn't figure out what was happening. And then we realised that we were getting dicked by a guy on a motorbike. So everywhere we went in the desert, this guy would follow us on a motorbike, and next minute we would get mortared or we'd get missiled, and it was absolutely fucking nightmare. So,
And how long did this last for before you guys cottoned on that there was a dicker following you?
he was sneaky fucker. Do you know what I mean? He hit, but trouble with the desert, sound travels because it's so fucking quiet. You could hear his lip, and when you're stationary and you're quiet, you could hear his motorbike. You know, and when you're in the middle of fucking nowhere, a 50-mile radius of absolutely nothing, and you hear a motorbike, yeah, your little radar twitches, thinking something's not right here. And so I got my rifle out and I observed him, and I got on the radio and I said, "Look, there's a guy that's dicking us. He's on a motorbike." And the plan we came up with is that what would happen is the MOG would move off. I would stay in situ with my ghillie suit on to wait till he shows himself because he would always follow us. And the MOG moved off, and it worked. He he rode off from left to right, and there's different types of heat shimmer that affects the flight of bullet. So there's four types: there's drifting, boiling, rising, and racing. So in each one would take. So if you ever seen a film where somebody's in the desert, they look bigger, and as they approach you, they get smaller. So I had to shoot higher than I would do to hit the mass. So I fired, and he went down, and he was about, if I remember rightly, about 675 yards away, something like that in my head. And yeah, he came off. And then I called a vehicle over and we went over, and I'd hit him just below the throat.
So
in the,
plumb in where you were aiming.
yeah, yeah. But I was aiming because of the heat shimmer. He's and the motorbike was in the sand and the throttle was stuck, so the motorbike was revving its tits off, and he had an AK-47 strapped to it, and he was breathing still, like gargling. There's nothing I could have done with him. I knelt next to him. I told the other lads to stay back. I got my sidearm out and I was just searching him. He had a map on him with all the locations of where we had been.
Yeah, so he was definitely dicking you.
Oh, massively, massively. And he had a radio, and the radio was, and it's called Icon Chatter, and it was tuned into the insurgents' frequency, and they were talking, and apparently they were asking where he was, why hasn't he radioed back and stuff. And he passed away. He died, and then we bagged and tagged him, and I thought, fuck, I've killed someone. You know, um, you join the army expecting you'd see war and you would see fighting, you would see genocide, you would see stuff, but you would never experience it yourself. So if you line,
Kind of like an out of body experience sort of thing.
yeah. So if you would line 100 soldiers up and you say, have you killed somebody in the army? Probably 10% of them go, yeah, I have. But who shot their weapon? Yeah, everyone shot their weapon, but did you actually kill that target? Especially in Afghan, they were sneaky fuckers. And I remember feeling like I was in trouble. Feeling I was going to get a tap on the shoulder. You know, um, can we have a quick word with you? You killed someone.
Yeah, because in civilian life, that's murder sort of thing.
Yeah, it's unnatural. And the taps on the shoulder that I was getting were well done, fucking well done. You saved a lot of lives. It could have got worse. You've done a good job. And then I wouldn't say that sniping became second nature because it's wrong for me to say that, but it got easier, should I say, because I accepted the role as a sniper, But yeah, my first kill was yeah, I kept the round as well. So yeah, I kept
Well, it's
that.
definitely one you're not going to forget. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Whether that's
yeah,
a good thing or a bad thing, that remains to be seen. But that's definitely something you would never forget, and I'm sure one that you will also never forget. We are going to bring it up now because elephant in the room, the longest kill, at least in Afghanistan. Um, Talk to us again about that entire experience because obviously every kill is different, but that longest one, you didn't even know it was the longest one at the time. But I'm guessing in hindsight, the way you had to bracket and lob the bullets kind of would have been a hint at some point that it was going to be the longest. Yeah, tell us all about that, what bracketing is, lobbing, and everything that involved the
yeah.
longest kill.
So there was a mission going in Afghan and into a town called Talajan. And Talajan itself was a Taliban stronghold at the time, a northern Helmans in Afghan. And they had a mixture of Afghan army and British troops on a patrol going into the village to clear the Taliban out. And the Afghan army felt comfortable with sort of like overhead support. So, and it was my job and my lads to give overhead support to the patrol going in. And I could see all the Taliban in the village queuing up, waiting to attack this patrol.
It's a literal ambush sort of stuff.
Yeah, basically. And I was radioing all the time, speaking to the patrol, telling them, you're going to get hit in a minute. And we had ICOM, so I had an interpreter with me, and he was talking away, and the ICOM was just constant noise, and the interpreter was, we had a good interpreter because sometimes you get shit ones and they don't tell you the full story, but he was talking to me, and I saw a glint in the distance. And I thought, what the fuck's that? And I looked for my scope, and it was a guy on the radio. So
As in,
I
like the
fired
glint was like the sun reflection of
the
the radio.
yeah the radio, yeah, of the antenna. And so I looked for my binos, I saw him, I lasered it with my laser binos to give me a rough range, and it just came up 4 bars, 4 red bars on it, and I thought, for fuck's sake. So I lasered again,
So, for
4 red.
reference, 4 bars. Does that mean like that's the max distance that will be available?
It didn't register at all. It was just 4 red lines. Yeah, and I thought, I'm out of the range of my rifle here. And I said, but I need to sort this out because so I fired my first shot and it took me 9 shots to get there.
How many bullets was in the magazine?
5 rounds.
So you had to reload 3 times or
Yeah,
twice?
yeah,
Wow,
3 times. Yeah.
wow. Please continue.
So and I was Oh, sorry, I loaded twice because I
Yep.
did 9 shots. I was lobbing the bullet in, so I'd fire my first shot, and I'd see it hit the compound lower. So then I would raise my scope up, fire again, and keep creeping forward until I hit the compound wall. And I knew where I was on my scope picture. I was well off the crosshairs. I was way down on the right hand side, and I thought, fucking hell, well off here. But I hit the compound wall so I could see the splash, and the icon chatter went dead. And then a voice appeared on the icon, and I said to the interpreter, "What's he saying?" He says, "I can't help you. I'm getting shot at from somewhere." And so, and then it went dead again. And then suddenly, all I heard was automatic fire opening up on the patrol. And the patrol was in a kill box. And what a kill box is where there's no cover. And basically, the enemy causes max devastation in this kill box, or we would if we were in a, we would put them in a kill box. And I didn't have a spotter. I had my driver with me. So I had to talk him through the spotting scope, and his graticle he had in his spotting scope was exactly the same as that I had in my scope. So when I was going the mil dots and stuff like that, I was going, just tell me left mil dot, 5 mil dots right, or something like that. No, sorry, 4 mil dots right, because there's only four on there. And I was just scan across and I would find my target, and then I would take that target out. Um, and then he was going, there's somebody over on the right hand side. And I'd looked, and he was about 700 yards away, 600 yards away. And it was a guy next to a water pump. And I said, look, just keep an eye on him. And I thought I was going to get flagged from the side and they were going to come round, because as a sniper, you're not meant to be seen, you know. As a sniper, you're meant to take the max of 3 shots, minimum of one, and then get the fuck out of Dodge, because it was nothing more happy for the Taliban to catch a sniper. It's a prize for them. And I thought, right, I said to my driver, just keep an eye on him, see what happens. And I carried on doing what I was doing. I made the decision to move my 3 vehicles down to the kill box and act as a buffer between the kill box and the Taliban. And my men were opening up on them to give enough time for the patrol to get their dead out, to get their injured out, and to go into dead ground away from this kill box. And then the battlefield went quiet. And then I heard do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. And I thought, where the fuck's that coming from? So I looked into the village where everywhere that I engaged the target, I was looking. I thought, what the fuck? I couldn't find anything. Do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. And I looked over to where the guy was at the water pump. And what he had done, he had knocked the head off the water pump and he had flooded the irrigation field. So my vehicles couldn't get out. They were wheel spinning and they were just stuck there, engaged by this automatic fire. And when I was looking at my blokes, they were just on the ground in cover, trying to not to get hit by this automatic fire. So I took him out at the water pump because I didn't want to risk him creeping up on me. And I realised I wasn't getting flanked. He was just there to knock the water pump off. So I took him out. And the only place I didn't check was the place where I engaged that dicker in the morning. Now, this is now at 2:30 in the afternoon. This started at 11:30. So
So
I thought,
hours of kinetic action going
yeah,
on.
we call it a tick, troops in contact. They last for seconds, 10 minutes. It's called shoot and scoot tactics, but this went on for fucking ages because there was a lot of moving parts that were going on. So I looked in the distance and I saw 2 guys up there on a PKM machine gun and they were firing down. So I saw, I've got to do it. Even if they get their head down, and that was the prime objective that I had to get their heads down, to stop them firing, to get my men out the shit. So I
Literally
fired
providing suppressive fire at best.
for sure, for sure. So I fired my first shot, um, and I missed because I hit the compound wall. I fired my second shot. Now each bullet's taking 6 seconds, and I'm counting in my head: one, two, three. And the second one, he stood up and it hit him. He fell backwards. And then the machine gun stopped firing. So I fired my third shot. And as I fired my third shot, I counted to 3 seconds. And I moved my rifle across and fired my fourth. So now I've got two bullets in there at the same time, but they're staggered. The third one missed him, and the fourth one hit him, and he fell backwards. I hit the first one in the side and the second one in the chest. The only reason is because the idea is to get the weapon that they were using, to stop it getting recycled back into Taliban hands. And we were in a tick for so long that they called air on station, and two Apache helicopters came down, and he came really fucking low to my location, and I pointed and he lasered it at 2,475 yards, because he did that in a helicopter, and I went like that, and I thought job done, you
Yeah,
know.
easy.
And
You're not thinking longest kill, thinking job done,
no,
ripper. Yeah.
yeah, I've job done, and the lads got out of the shit. We then the Apache helicopters stayed on target for a bit longer to make sure that we didn't get followed up. And we got out of the shit, you know, and the tour happened. And that was early on in the tour. And I thought, fucking hell, if this is the beginning of the tour's going to be
Was
quite
this the
kinetic.
first tour or the second tour of Afghanistan for
Uh,
you?
First one, first,
Wow.
no, second
Second
one.
one? Yeah,
And
because the
this
first
is,
one was the anti-tank one, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which we'll
So
double that in a second. Please continue.
yeah, and you know, this is going to be quite kinetic tour, you know, because my squadron were down south in the desert, and it was my regiment's battle group, and so the majority of the regiment were in Musakala, and the colonel requested specifically my troop to come and join him up north, to flush Taliban out. And obviously, because I was a sniper on the ground, I was a more of an asset to take longer shot, you know, and stop risking life when you
Literally
can use.
send one, or two, because team of two, rather than
Yeah,
a squad sort of thing.
yeah, for sure, you know, and it just saves that down on casualties really, and that's what I just got used and abused on that tour, you know. And you said earlier what toll it takes on your body. Fucking that tour, both tours took a lot of toll on me, and it changed me. It changed my personality, you know. It changed me as a human being, you know. And then obviously I, I hit an anti. Well, before that, I was in a massive contact, and I got shot in my body armor. I got shot in my helmet.
Which did
Um,
cause a brain injury. It
yeah.
you didn't find out until later on, but it caused a brain injury, didn't it?
Well, there's three flights to a bullet. You know, when it leaves the barrel of the gun, it's going supersonic. You know, and then it goes transonic when it wobbles, and when it stabilizes it, because it's lost so much energy, it goes subsonic. So there's three stages, and this one hit me going supersonic. You know, it hit me on the corner, and it's funny. I had an old style helmet on because they didn't have my size in the clothing store. And well, you're going to have to go on tour with an old helmet. And I thought, yeah, it doesn't bother me, you know, because when I was sniping, I used to take my helmet off, because it just got in the fucking way. Um, and because the old helmet was lower on the ear, the new one was higher, an inch higher. So if I had a new helmet on, I wouldn't be talking to you now. I'll be dead. Easy, easy. You
Wow,
know.
that would be something that would play on your mind almost all. If it was me, it'd play on my mind almost all the time, thinking, "Fuck, how close," you know.
I
And
think of that. I did getting hit by an IED.
yeah, well, which is insane because you got hit by an IED. No, it wasn't an IED, or it was because it was an anti-tank mine. Which is first of all insane that you survived an IED anti-tank mine blast. Because anti-personnel mine, obviously they are awful, but an anti-tank mine is next level. Talk to us about that, please. Talk us through that experience, if you don't
So
mind, of course.
I was on a patrol, giving overwatch for a patrol going into the green zone. Now the green zone is a belt of greenness, which is probably about 400 meters wide, and it goes on for miles. And you see all the desert, and you see this random green strip,
You'd be like, "Hang
and
on,
they
that's out of place here."
yeah, and they call it the green zone. Basically, the Taliban like hiding in there and doing their shooting tactics. So a troop was going in to flush the Taliban out, and it was my job to give Overwatch. So I've done that. Um, Took a few targets out that were creeping up on them. Done my job, and it was our job then to extract out to go back to a secure location. And it was about 4:30 in the evening, December the 14th, 4:30, and 5 o'clock, 5:30, Afghan is pitch black. You can't see fuck all, just pitch fucking black. And I needed to get to this location before it got dark, because my lads were, they were fucked. We've seen a lot, we've done a lot, and I just wanted to get them back to get their heads down. My front call sign stopped. Now, me being a sergeant, I'm not meant to lead. Your junior call sign is. So I jumped off the wagon. I ran down to the front call sign, and he's looked at me and he said, "I've got kids at home. I've got a wife,
He was
and
having like weird feeling in the gut, like something's not right
yeah,
here, sort of thing.
yeah." And I said, "Look, at the end of the day, we've got to go." And he looked at me in a way to think, and I thought, okay, I'll lead.
That speaks volumes about you as a person in the most tremendous way, because that is a true leader. Because it's yeah, I can't even begin to describe that. That's so selfless, honestly. Please continue.
And I thought to myself, I'll lead. And and I spoke to my driver and I said, just overtake him or we'll lead. And I didn't want to go for the village because there are too many vulnerable points, corners, IDs, tripwires, stuff like that. So I said, let's scoot round the village.
Thinking it's
And
the safer spot. Yeah.
yeah, so I scooted around the village and I hit a 30 kilo anti-tank mine. I think they were stacked on each other. And I I hit it on the right side, so my driver wore the majority of it. It blew me out of the vehicle. I broke both my arms. Um, but you think I've just took a bullet 3 days earlier to my helmet, so I've got concussion anyway, and now the blast has hit me again. Right side, my driver's legs were absolutely mangled, um, and I couldn't find him. That was the that was the bit that I found the most. And I tried to crawl forward to find him with broken arms. I tried to crawl forward, and they were shouting at me to stay still. But I needed to find my driver. And what happened is the steering wheel catapulted him back in. His legs hit the steering wheel, and sand from the blast had landed on the vehicle. So it had camouflaged him with his camouflage.
Did he survive?
Uh, he survived. Yeah, he's good.
Oh,
He's walked.
thank fuck.
He's good. But he had multiple surgeries to save his legs.
Did they save his legs?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
wonderful as well.
I I saw the blood and I saw him, and then my lads tipped up and hat off to them, their training kicked in, and they dealt with the situation. If I would have crawled forwards another meter, I would have hit a anti-personnel mine. Because what they had done, they had put the IED and then they would put AP mines around the area to stop anyone coming into that vehicle.
So you've literally copped a bullet to the temple, for lack of a better term, because it give you a concussion 3 days beforehand. You've now copped this, and then you've come close to death with the concussion, and now you've gone and literally a meter away again 3 days later from
Yeah, yeah,
part of my language. Wow.
yeah, yeah. And then I remember, I remember, I remember, I remember being on the Chinook helicopter getting murdered out to Cambastion, and
Might have been on Liz's Chinook.
might have been, and they drilled into my shin. I don't care what anyone says; it's the most excruciating pain that I've ever felt in my life. But the battery went flat on the drill, so they had to use a screwdriver, like
Jesus.
an old-fashioned, like with a ratchet on it, to screw into my shin. Um, and
Mind you, you're going
that,
through broken bones and everything, and you're copping a hand drill into the
yeah,
shin.
and I was begging them to stop, begging them.
I'd be like, kill me at this point, just kill me.
Yeah, yeah. And then they injected me with ketamine, and I felt it go through my whole body, and the pain was fucking awful. And then I was off my tits. I'm not a religious man, all right? I'm not a religious man. I believe in fate. Uh, and I believe things happen for a reason. And I remember waking up and there were like people in white coats, but it was all a blur. And it was like psychedelic, like people walking past and their trail would end up behind them. And I was fighting. I was fighting. And I thought, I don't want this. I don't want to die. I don't want this. And I grabbed one passing me and I grabbed him by the arm and I pulled him in and I said, can you just tell my wife that I love her and tell her that I'm sorry? And then they injected me with um, this injection that counter reacts to ketamine. It was a man that I grabbed and he said, you can tell her yourself, mate, you're going to be okay. Um, and then I went out again and I remember waking up in the ward and I looking over at my driver's bed and there was just pure blood all in his bed and he wasn't in it. And I thought, fuck, he's died. There's been complication and there was complications with his legs and they rushed him back into theatre to save his legs and stuff like that. And then they flew us out to Kandahar, and then Kandahar, they flew us out to Birmingham, Sally Oak Hospital, where the veterans go. I was there for 2 weeks, and I had casts on, and then I was in cast for 6 weeks, and
And
then
did
the cast.
Tanya come and see you in Birmingham?
Oh yeah, stayed by me, by my side. She didn't leave, didn't leave, and then
Based on your interviews that you've done previously and with us and in the book, she's definitely your ride or die. It's absolutely without a doubt.
massively, massively. There's a rock. When people say she's my rock, but she's my mountain. you know, and they took the casts off, and then I went back to camp, and they made me do 10 press ups. Yeah, and then it sent me back out to Afghan.
Back
uh, Back,
to like
yeah,
to resume the tour, not a second
yeah,
tour at this point, the same
no,
tour.
yeah, to finish the tour off.
Fuck.
And I
At that
wasn't.
point, I would have been like, nah, nah, leave me out. I want to stay out of Afghanistan until at least the next rotation. Did you feel like you couldn't say something like that?
I feel like I couldn't. I felt an obligation really to my men. And I remember when I flew back to Afghan, and then they helicoptered me out back up country at range to Musakala. My lads were there, and my 2IC at the time was going an arm and arm. And he said, "You're fucking welcome." I remember what he said. He goes, "You're fucking welcome to it all." And he got in the helicopter and he just went. So yeah, and it was tough to hear that. It wasn't, "Hi Craig, how you doing?" It was like, yeah. And I went to a place called Panda's Ridge, and that place was something else for snipering. Yeah, yeah,
We've covered your early days. We've covered Kosovo, Bosnia, Iraq, and Afghanistan. There's some final questions and some topics that I want to cover with you that don't involve, war stories and whatnot. Returning home from your final deployment, the second, if I'm not mistaken, of Afghanistan, what was that like?
um, I remember turning up in camp, and Tanya couldn't drive, so I was just going to get a taxi for the half an hour drive back to my quarter.
Which, by the way,
All
this
the while,
story in the book brought me to tears listening to this
yeah,
this bit. Please continue.
and all the wives and girlfriends were there saying hello and everything, and I could just hear this little voice, and I ignored it, and I was walking towards the phone boxes in camp to ring a taxi up, um, and she'd managed to get a lift from a friend in the same area, the same close as us, and I just dropped my bags, and she ran to me and gave me the biggest cuddle ever. But I wasn't the same person.
And that's unfortunately the toll of conflict, um, and being part of the military. And so that was the final deployment, but it wasn't the end of your time in the military just yet. So from that point, obviously, you gave her a big old hug. And as you just mentioned, you weren't the same person. From that point on, when did it start for you? And when did you realize, right, I need help. I need to get out of the military, etc. And how did that sort of process go for you?
It wasn't the fact that I wanted to get out. It was the fact that people started seeing a difference to me. Um, Tanya noticed it first. My isolation, my irritability. I wasn't drinking. I didn't turn to drink or drugs. I just my isolation more than anything else, and just wanted to be on my own. And my anger, my irritability was quite high.
Like you were quick
But
to anger than in the past,
yeah,
sort of
very
thing?
quick, very quick over simple things. Um, and she noticed it. She noticed the change, and then the army noticed it. Because from there, I went to the sniper school for 2 years to teach, 2.5 years. So I taught sniper school for 2.5 years. Um, and then I came back to the regiment, and then exercises that I would go on were I would have flashbacks of being in Afghan or Iraq, and then I would take it too far. like cable tying the enemy, and they were just your mates playing enemy, but you'd think it was a real fucking thing. And the army noticed it, that I was changing. Um, I wasn't that black humor, crack a joke kind of guy my granddad believed me to be. I was a sullen, quiet, angry man.
Kind of a shell of yourself, you could say.
Yeah, yeah. And I would close my eyes and see people that I've taken out, um, and then I would have really bad nightmares and not sleep at night. And then I'd walk around the house all night or go for a walk around the streets, and Tanya was really worried about me. So the MO called me in, the medical officer called me in, and he said, we're concerned about you. We're going to send you to Aldershot, to where the mental health unit is there, just have a chat. And so I had a chat, I'd done some tests, and then they put me on some medication, and then I went back to the MO's office, medical officers, and he said, "You're done." I said, "Okay." Oh, I don't know what you mean. And he said, "You're done." And he said, "We're going to medical discharge you with PTSD." It wasn't just Afghan, it wasn't just Iraq. I was still having images of Kosovo. And so that's why I always say it probably stemmed from there, if anything. And then they discharged me, and I had to go home and wait till I got discharged fully out of the army. And I wasn't allowed back in the regiment at all. I had to stay at home
So you couldn't
all the
even go
time.
back to the regiment to say goodbye to.
No, no. And I got abandoned by the regiment. I just got abandoned by them. Never heard from them since I've been out.
For people listening at home, how long have you been out up to this point? Which recording? We're in July 2025.
I got out in 2013.
Yeah, so 12 years, better part of. And
Yeah,
you haven't
nothing.
heard single
Nah,
thing.
no, nothing.
That makes me angry for you. And I mean, I shouldn't be angry for you, but that makes me so fucking mad.
23 years. 23 years
And it was
of,
over in half an hour, for lack of a better term.
yeah, quicker than that, really. You go in to this office and there's three officers there, and they said, right, medical discharge you. And then I got diagnosed with a TBI, traumatic brain injury. Um, my hips were fucked, so I've had a full hip replacement on both sides. I had a finger amputated, um, just through trauma. Um,
You've also had your arms blown up as well, for lack of a better term.
and I suffer from migraines
Is
all
that
the
from
time.
the TBI?
Yeah, yeah, all the time. Yeah. And it's funny you say that because I've got a brain scan. I'm meant to have a brain scan every year, and I haven't had one since I left the military. So, and I've got one August the 1st. So that's something I had to do, organise. But the army just abandoned you.
That makes me so fucking mad, almost to the point of tears, the level of mad. That shouldn't be happening, not just to a veteran in general, but anyone of the military, whether they've served in combat or not. That's fucking horrendous. So, after your medical retirement, we'll call it, from the military, at what point does the longest kill become a thing? Not necessarily the book, obviously, but the um, being released in the newspapers and wanted, or was this
So
before that?
yeah, before all that. So basically, when you come off tour, you have a medals parade to receive your Afghan medal, and it's a bit bullshit. A journalist came, a couple of journalists, and they all get monitored because they're in camp. They get ushered around by officers, and because my men saw quite a lot of action, they said, like, tell your story. And so they were telling the stories, and then I told some of my stories, some of my combat experience, And one of the journalists said, "You realise that you broke Rob Furlong's record?" And I went, "No, not really." I wasn't really interested. And he took a picture of me, and then I kept saying to the officer, "Will this get censored?" And he goes, "Yeah, everything you say will get censored, so don't worry." So I was worried about my family at the end of the day. Um, and on the Sunday, I got loads of my phone was blowing up, and I thought, "What? Have you read the papers? Have you read the papers?" And I said, "No." So we went to go and read the papers, and I was in every single tabloid in England. My picture, it went straight to print. No one censored it.
In hindsight, if it was censored, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
And do you know what? It would, no disrespect to you, but it wouldn't
Yeah.
bother me.
No, no, exactly. No disrespect taken. No.
It wouldn't bother me at all. Um, and and then Tanya said to me, "This don't feel right. This don't feel right. I've got a bad feeling about this." And
Because ISIS was kicking off at the time too.
yeah, and then everyone was telling her, "Let him enjoy the limelight. Let him enjoy this." And I didn't want it, you know. And it got to the point where somebody for the MOD came into our house, and I had to sign some paperwork, Official Secrets Act stuff, and then he left, and then we
Do you know
started
what you
getting death.
signed?
I ain't got a fucking clue. No, I
Yeah.
ain't got a clue. And then you always figure that the army's got your best interest at heart, and until they don't. And then we started getting death threats. So
From
we cut
from
short.
ISIS or from like in general as well?
No, ISIS.
Well,
Yeah.
because they have your name and your fucking photo.
Yeah.
That's all they need, and they can find you, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And they found a car in Birmingham, um, ready to kidnap me. It was lined out in the boot with plastic, and my picture was in the car. So, yeah, so me and Tanya, my daughter, we went into hiding for 3 years. Yeah.
Wow. Fuck. So I'm just sitting with that for a minute because fuck. And all because of the literal either incompetence or he chose to put a name to it. Chose not to censor it. Either chose not to or just forgot from a journalist.
Well, he doesn't censor it. So basically, any story goes to London District Media Ops in London, and it's where the headquarters is. And basically, the story will get censored and redacted. So they can't put that, can't put that, can't put that. And then the journalist will get the um, letter back saying you can publish this. So basically, it just missed that middleman out and went straight to print.
So somewhere along the line, someone fucked up big time
Yeah,
and
massive.
literally fucked your life for years. And
Yeah.
in my opinion, that's not part of the language fucking good enough. Um, what toll did it have? Obviously, you've spoken about the toll on yourself, but on your family, like Tanya and your daughter.
My daughter was going for her GCSEs at the time doing the exams. She had to be escorted into school by armed police. Um, so she missed all her GCSEs and she had to resit them. Tanya had a bit of a breakdown, and I was on hyper alert because I was just ready for anything.
Which
Thinking
would
is the word.
definitely not have helped the PTSD going on
No,
either.
not at all. Not at all. Hyper vigilant, high sensitivity, everything like that. All my sniper.
That's some deep shit, and it's intense. And I first of all want to thank you for talking about all of that we've covered so far. So let's lighten it up a bit with some quick fire questions. No pun
Yeah,
intended.
go on. Go on.
Right. So, what's your favorite movie of all time, Craig?
Heat.
How do you like your steak?
Rare.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a rare to medium rare operator with that. Yeah, it can't be a manhole cover level of well done, but I also don't want it still mooing. Apple or Android?
Android.
And what's your favorite type of music?
Um, do you know what? I like everything. I love opera.
Yep.
I like really thrash metal.
Yeah, I love
Um,
thrash metal too.
but
Big
just
Slipknot
whatever
fan right
catches,
here.
yeah, just whatever catches my head. If
Yep.
it's a good tune, I like it. You know,
Okay.
it's not. Yeah, it's not a specific music base.
When you were deployed, whether it was
Yeah.
Bosnia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, etc. Obviously, during those days, iPods weren't really a thing in the early days, that is. So, what was on your mixtape or what was playing through the stereo when you were chilling on base, sort of thing for you?
Five Finger Death Punch.
I love that so much. Yes, that's a vibe. What inspired you to write your book, The Longest Kill, which, to anyone that's listening, is available in paperback, hardback, audiobook, and Kindle?
My Tanya, my wife, being because I've got a story um, at the end of the day, and I couldn't write it just about the shot because it'd be like a pamphlet. So, and I've got an interesting story, an interesting life. So Tanya encouraged me, and yeah, it's worked out well. Yeah,
Well, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. I've actually been telling people who, over the last week and a half, that I've told that I've got you coming on the podcast, that even though The Longest Kill is absolutely an amazing accomplishment, it's, in my opinion, pales in comparison to the entire life story and experiences that you've had so far. What would be your proudest achievement?
probably getting married.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think everyone had their doubts about me and Tanya, but we lasted, and we're still strong as ever. We get on like a house on fire, and
Well, they do
she's
say that, military combat veterans, the rate of divorce, let alone special forces, is like within 10 years. And you and
yeah,
Tanya have been well past that. That's incredible.
yeah, yeah. And I just each day we get stronger and stronger. You know,
I love that so much, Craig, honestly. My final two questions. Looking back on your life up to this point, literally July 2025, knowing everything you know now, all of your experiences before military, during military, after military, etc., what would be three pieces of advice you would give 15-year-old Craig?
concentrate on literature, reading, and writing, so you're not as dyslexic because it can hold you back. Um, and if you join the military, get a trade. Use something. And I always say to people now, use the army, don't work for the army, as in let them pay for all your courses, get all your licenses, become a bricklayer, learn how to cut trees down, learn how to be a carpenter, you know,
And what's 2 to
get a
3 years
trade.
mandatory service after that, if you've got a trade to fall
Yeah,
back on?
massively, so when you leave the army, you've got something to fall back on. Yeah.
I love that. And my final question for you, Craig. And I mean, I could ask you 1,000 more questions, but we've got a time frame. What's next for Craig Harrison?
What's next? Um, I've opened a survival school up.
That's
Um,
Maverick, is it?
yeah, the Maverick Survival School. The reason why it's for Maverick Survival School is my call sign, and I help veterans now, and first line responders like the fire brigade, the police, and everything cope with PTSD and give them the opportunity to come down to a wood and learn bushcraft. But the first thing they learn is to talk. The second bit is the fun stuff, and it's working really well. And it's just getting bigger and better and better. Just more in the pipeline for the school.
How long have you been running the Maverick Survival School?
Going for 4 years now. I got charity status last year, June last year, so I've become a charity. If anyone goes on my website, you can donate on there as well. Everything goes towards the Maverick School, to help a veteran or equipment or whatever. So yeah, it's a big thing to me and Tanya's heart.
I love that so much, Craig, because you've been through so much and continue to go through so much, especially mentally. And the fact you're able to help those, it really comes back to, and the running theme I can see of this episode is the man that you are, and all stems back to your grandfather. And that's testament to you, a testament to the man that your grandfather was. So I want to thank you very much for your time and for sharing your story. And anyone that's either been interested or engaged by Craig's story on this podcast, do yourselves a massive favor and jump onto that audiobook or hardback, paperback, or Kindle version of Craig's book, The Longest Kill. Links will be in the description to that as well, because it's definitely worth reading or listening if you do the audiobook. Thank you so much for your time, Craig.
No worries. Thank you.